The great silver dropship touched down on the glass fields of Velthera. Dust rose in soft waves as the landing gear hissed against the crystal ground. Inside, Captain Ryder Kane stood still, his armor locking in place with a faint hum. He was tall, steady, and completely silent, a wall of black iron surrounded by the faint golden glow of the alien world outside. It was humanity's first true visit to the Veltheran Palace after 2 long decades of uneasy peace. The last time humans had stepped here, it was under a flag of surrender. But this time was different. Earth had grown stronger, harder, and Ryder Kane was the man chosen to walk into the heart of the alien empire wearing the full mark of Terran. Pride, his battle armor. The doors of the ship opened with a slow hiss. Beyond them, an ocean of shimmering blue light spread in every direction. Velthera's skies were not like Earth's. They had 2 suns, one golden, one pale. The air carried a soft scent of metal and flowers, strange and sharp at the same time. Waiting for him was a crowd of alien guardstall, elegant creatures with smooth skin and silver eyes. Their armor glimmered like molten pearl. They held long staffs that pulsed with quiet energy. None spoke as Ryder stepped down the ramp, the heavy thud of his boots echoing across the crystal floor. At the center of the palace courtyard stood Queen Lysara. Her presence commanded everything. She was radiant and cold, her silver skin shimmering like starlight. Her eyes, a deep shade of blue, seemed to hold the entire sky inside them. Draped in layers of woven metal and silk, she looked like something carved from a dream. Her court stood behind her advisors, generals and servants all, watching as the lone human approached. For them, he was not a guest. He was an experiment. Ryder stopped a few steps away, saluted slightly, and spoke through his armor's filtered voice. Captain Ryder Kane, Terran Vanguard. Here, under flag of peace. The Queen tilted her head, her lips curling in a faint smirk. Peace, she repeated, her voice like music wrapped in steel. Humans speak of peace after burning 3 of our colonies to dust. Ryder didn't move. We defended what was ours, he said calmly. Lys. Sarah walked closer, circling him like a cat. The sound of her footsteps echoed against the floor. You hide behind that shell of metal, she said, her tone both curious and mocking. Is it fear that makes you hide your face, or shame? He turned his head slightly, the reflective surface of his helmet catching the twin suns. It's called armor, he said. It saves lives, or hides weakness, she teased softly. The court murmured behind her. Ryder stood straight, his voice steady. Weakness is pretending power is kindness. Her smile faded for just a moment. She hadn't expected him to speak that way. The court went quiet. A low hum filled the hall, the alien guards tightening, their grip on their weapons. Then the Queen's laughter broke the silence. It was soft, musical, and dangerous. You're bold, human, she said, circling back to face him. Perhaps too bold for your own safety? I was sent to talk, Ryder said, not to tremble. The Queen studied him closely. His armor was unlike anything she had seen, dark, heavy, but carved with human symbols and words she couldn't read. Every line of it spoke of survival. There was no beauty in it, only purpose. And that alone intrigued her more than she wanted to admit. She turned toward her throne, motioning for him to follow. Then speak, Captain. But no, this on Velthera. Words carry weight. One wrong word can start a war. Ryder followed in silence, his footsteps echoing behind hers. The throne room stretched endlessly, walls lined with glowing vines and hovering orbs of light. The ceiling shimmered with crystals that reflected the 2 suns, bathing everything in shifting hues of gold and blue. When they reached the center, Sarah sat upon her throne, high and regal. She rested her chin on one hand and motioned for him to stand before her. You came far to speak for your species, she said. Tell me, what does humanity want now? More worlds? More resources? Or are you here to beg forgiveness? Ryder looked up at her calmly. Neither, he said. I came to stop another war. The hall grew quiet again. Even the faint hum of energy faded. Lysara leaned forward. And what makes you think a single human can stop it? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he removed his helmet's voice filter, letting his real voice echo firm, clear, and human. "Because I've seen what war does to both sides," he said, "and I'm tired of it." The Queen studied him, the faintest flicker of interest passing through her eyes. "Tired," she repeated softly. "How strange. Humans, the so-called Deathworlders, grow tired of fighting." Ryder met her gaze. "Only fools fight forever." The Queen's expression darkened slightly. "Be careful, Captain. You stand in the heart of my empire, surrounded by those who could end you with a thought." He shrugged. "Then maybe peace starts with one person brave enough to risk standing here." Her eyes lingered on him longer this time. There was no fear in his voice, no arrogance, only quiet resolve. It was something she hadn't seen in any ambassador before. "Very well," she said finally. "You wish for peace? Then prove you deserve it. Tomorrow, you will walk the trial of glass. If you survive, we will talk again." Ryder didn't flinch. "What is it?" "A simple walk," she said, smiling faintly. "But few have finished it." "Then I'll be the first human to do it." Her smile widened. "We shall see." That night, the human quarters were quiet. Ryder sat alone by the wide alien window, the sky outside glowing with silver storms. His armor rested beside him, its surface scratched and scarred. He ran a hand across one dent near the chest plate, a memory of another world. Another war. He remembered his commander's voice before departure. "They don't respect strength. They respect what survives." He leaned back, watching the storm dance across the horizon. Somewhere out there, Earth was just a pale in the dark, but its people believed in him. He was their envoy of iron, not because of the metal he wore, but because of the will behind it. As dawn broke, the palace guards arrived to escort him. They moved in perfect silence through long corridors of glass and stone. At last, they reached a chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly forward, a hallway lined with shimmering crystal panels, each one glowing faintly under the twin suns. Lasara stood at the entrance, waiting. Her robe shimmered like molten silver, her expression unreadable. "This is the trial of glass," she said. "It measures the strength of flesh and mind. The air inside burns, the floor cuts, and the light disorients. No armor may enter." Ryder nodded once and began to remove his armor piece by piece. The alien guards whispered among themselves. The sound of metal hitting stone echoed through the hall. When he was done, only the thin black undersuit remained. Stretched tight over muscle and scars, Lysara tilted her head slightly, studying him. "So fragile," she murmured. "Humans are made of nothing but soft matter. Why risk your life for words?" He looked at her evenly. "Because peace is worth pain." Without another word, he stepped into the corridor. The heat struck him instantly. Waves of sharp light bouncing from every direction. The glass beneath his feet burned, slicing faintly with every step. But he kept walking, steady and silent. From her vantage point, Lasara watched with growing surprise. Most creatures had collapsed within moments. But the human didn't stop. His pace slowed, his breathing deepened. But he moved forward with the same steady rhythm, left, right like a heartbeat refusing to fail. When he reached the center of the corridor, she saw his back straighten, his shoulders squared, and she realized he wasn't walking for himself. He was walking for his people. By the time he reached the other end, the room had fallen silent. Even her generals stood still. Ryder turned slightly, his voice calm but hoarse. "You wanted to see the strength of flesh. Now you've seen it." Lysara didn't answer. For the first time, she couldn't. Her eyes followed him as he walked past her. The faintest trace of blood on his palms where the glass had cut him. But there was no anger in his expression, and only quiet dignity. As he passed, she spoke softly, her voice almost uncertain. "No one has ever crossed it without screaming." He looked back at her, his tone simple. Maybe they didn't have a reason. She stood motionless as he walked away, her thoughts tangled. Something inside her, a pride she had always believed unshakable, cracked outside. The alien sky shimmered brighter than ever. And for the first time in many years, the Queen of Elthera wondered if humanity's strength wasn't in its armor, but in what it chose to protect. The palace was silent the next morning. The news of the human who walked through the trial of glass had spread like fire through the crystal halls of Valthara. For the first time in memory, an outsider, especially a human, had crossed the deadly corridor and lived. Servants whispered his name in disbelief. Generals called it impossible. And yet there he was, alive and calm, sitting in the guest chamber with his hands wrapped in clean white cloth. Captain Ryder Kane sat near the tall window where the twin suns crossed. His eyes were calm but distant. He could still feel the sting of the glass cuts beneath the cloth. The alien healing gel worked fast, sealing wounds that should have taken weeks. But the memory of the trial burned deeper than the pain. He had seen how the Queen watched him, curious, unsettled, unsure of what to make of him. That look told him he had made an impact. A soft sound at the door broke his thoughts. The door slid open, and an alien attendant entered with a silver bowl. Inside, thin, glowing liquid shimmered. "For your hands?" the attendant said in a quiet, cautious tone. "Thank you," Ryder said, dipping his palms into the bowl. The liquid was cool and soothing, spreading warmth up his arms. The attendant bowed slightly before leaving, as the door closed. Ryder noticed something lying on the table beside him, a small silver emblem carved in the shape of an eye. The Queen's mark. It hadn't been there before. He looked at it for a long moment, unsure if it was a warning or an invitation. Later that day, 2 guards appeared. "The Queen calls for you," one of them said. Ryder stood, fastening the upper plates of his armor, but leaving the helmet behind. The hallways glowed with soft blue light as they led him toward the Queen's chambers. It wasn't the throne room this time, but a quieter place high above the city. Beneath a ceiling of living light vines that pulsed like stars, Sarah stood there, gazing out the open balcony. Her silver hair shimmered under the twin suns. "You survived," she said without turning around. "Wasn't planning not to." Ryder replied. She glanced over her shoulder, her tone light but sharp. "You speak as if pain is nothing. Pain reminds us we're alive," he said, "and it tells us what's worth it." The Queen walked closer, her long robe sweeping the floor. "You are strange human. You speak of peace, yet you wear armor meant for war. You bleed and still look unbroken. I thought your kind only knew how to destroy." Ryder shook his head slowly. "We destroy when we have to. But we build more than we break. Build." She echoed. "What has humanity built that lasts?" He looked out the window with her. The city below was made of crystal towers and floating bridges. "We build hope," he said, "even when the sky tells us it's impossible." For a brief second, the Queen said nothing. Her eyes softened, then hardened again. "Hope doesn't win wars. It ends them," Ryder said quietly. Her gaze lingered on him. "You speak like a soldier who has seen too much." "I've seen enough," he admitted. "Enough to know no one wins for long." The Queen turned away again, her robe glimmering like liquid metal. "You will attend tonight's gathering? My council wishes to see if the stories about you are true." "Try not to offend anyone." "I'll try not to," Ryder said, though he wasn't sure what counted as offense here. That evening, the grand hall of voices was filled with the highborn of Valthara nobles, generals, scholars, and envoys from distant systems. The ceiling looked like an open galaxy, with floating spheres of light drifting above them like stars. Music played from crystal instruments, soft and haunting. When Ryder entered, conversations quieted. The human, tall and armored, stood out among the glowing forms of the aliens. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with disdain. He could feel their eyes on him as he moved through the room. Queen Lysara sat on her raised seat, surrounded by her council. She gestured for him to approach. "Captain Ryder Kane of Earth," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "The man who walked through the trial of glass." A murmur swept through the guests. One of the generals stepped forward, a tall being with black eyes and a cold expression. "Your Majesty, permission to test this creature further. One trial proves nothing. The Terrans are cunning. They hide their weakness behind machines." Ryder met the general's gaze. "If you think I'm hiding, step forward and find out." The hall went silent. The general's jaw tightened, but the Queen raised a hand. "Enough," she said. This is a night of peace, not a duel. She turned her gaze to Ryder again. Tell us, Captain, why did humanity build its fleets so far beyond your small world? Was it fear or pride? Ryder looked around at the shimmering faces. Neither, he said. It was survival. When our sun burned too bright, we left. When the stars were cold, we built fire. Every step we take is because the universe doesn't care if we live, but we do. Some of the guests exchanged glances, whispering. Lasara watched him carefully. You speak with conviction, yet you came here alone, without a fleet, without weapons. I came with something stronger, Ryder said. Oh, she asked, leaning forward. And what is that? Trust, he said simply. The hall fell into thoughtful silence. Even the music faded for a moment. Lasara's eyes softened, but only slightly. You think trust will keep you alive among those who see you as prey? He smiled faintly. So far, it's working. That earned a rare, quiet laugh from her. The tension in the room eased. Even the general turned away, muttering under his breath. The queen rose from her seat, walking slowly down the steps until she stood before him. Your kind surprises me, she said. You speak as if the universe owes you something, yet it does not. Ryder nodded. That's why we work harder than anyone else. For a moment, they stood face to face, the human and the alien queen. Two beings from opposite sides of the galaxy, sharing the same truth, neither trusted fate to be kind. Later that night, as the hall emptied, Lasara lingered near the glowing fountains. Ryder was about to leave when she spoke quietly behind him. Stay human, he turned. She stepped closer, studying him again, her eyes tracing the edges of his armor. This shell of yours, she said softly, it hides too much. I see strength in your stance, but I cannot read your eyes. He hesitated. Maybe that's for the best. She tilted her head. You fear showing what's inside? He shook his head. Not fear, just caution. The queen stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. Do you even trust yourself, Captain? He met her gaze. Every scar I carry says I do. She stared at him for a long time, then smiled faintly. You humans, you never stop challenging me. Maybe that's why we survive, he said. Her expression softened again. But there was something else in her eyes, curiosity, mixed with something she didn't want to name. Go, she said quietly. Tomorrow, we continue. The next morning, Ryder awoke to the sound of distant thunder. Valthera's twin suns were hidden behind storm clouds that flickered with blue lightning. Outside his window, the city glowed like liquid glass. He sensed something was coming. He dressed and went to the training courtyard, where alien soldiers practiced with energy blades that left trails of light. When they saw him, the training stopped. Their commander, the same general from the night before, stepped forward. Human, he said coldly. You claim peace, but you are a soldier. Show us what your kind calls honor. Ryder sighed quietly. I didn't come here to fight. Then perhaps you came to bow, the general said, raising his weapon. Before Ryder could reply, Lasara's voice echoed through the courtyard. Enough. Everyone froze. She descended the steps, her robe rippling like light. He is under my protection, she said sharply. The general bowed his head, but said, My queen, the court demands proof that this human's courage is not illusion. Proof, she said, turning toward Ryder. You've already seen it. Still, Ryder looked at her calmly. If they need to see more, I'll give them truth, not tricks. He removed the top part of his armor, revealing the scarred human beneath. This is what we are, he said. Not machines. Not gods. Just people who don't quit. The courtyard went still. Even the general's expression changed. Lasara's gaze softened again, her silver eyes reflecting the human standing bare under the stormlight. Ryder turned slightly toward her. You said your world respects endurance? Then let them see it. The storm broke above them, lightning flashing across the sky. The queen's eyes widened as rain began to fall, an uncommon sight on Valthera. The drops shimmered like molten glass, sliding down her armor and his skin. For a moment, they stood in silence, thunder echoing like a heartbeat. Lysara finally spoke, her tone quieter than the storm. You may wear iron, Captain, but it's not the metal that protects you. It's what's inside. He looked at her, rain dripping from his hair. Then maybe you finally see us for what we are. She didn't answer, but the way she looked at him said more than words ever could. That night, as Ryder returned to his chamber, he found a new message, waiting, a simple line etched into the wall in the alien tongue. He had learned enough of their symbols to read it. It said, "Tomorrow you will stand before the council, and the Queen will decide if peace lives or dies." Ryder sat down beside his armor, the storm fading outside. He ran a hand across the scarred metal and whispered to himself, "One more day." And far above the palace, in her private chamber, Queen Lysara stood by the window watching the human's light flicker across the city. For reasons she couldn't explain, she hoped he would stay alive, not because of politics or treaties, but because his courage had made her question her own reflection. The Veltheron council chamber gleamed under the twin suns. Its walls were smooth, polished crystal that reflected every color of the storm outside. At the center, Queen Lysara's throne rose high, carved like a wave of silver light. Advisors, generals, and scholars gathered around, their silver eyes glowing faintly as they awaited the human who had dared to survive the trial of glass. Captain Ryder Kane entered quietly, his black undersuit gleaming under the soft light. His armor remained behind, polished and ready, but for now, he walked with nothing to hide him. The hum of anticipation filled the room. Many in the council whispered doubts and disbelief. A human without armor? Who dared? Lysara's eyes followed him, calm but piercing. "Step forward, Captain," she commanded. "Show us what lies beneath your shell." Ryder stopped a few paces from her throne. The silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the chamber. He lifted his chin, meeting the Queen's gaze without fear. "My kind doesn't wear masks when truth matters," he said softly. Then, slowly, he reached for the remaining parts of his armor, the gauntlets, the chestplate, and the shoulder guards. Piece by piece, he removed them, placing each carefully on the polished floor. The council gasped. Some staggered back, muttering in their alien tongue. They had expected scars, implants, or mechanical modifications that enhanced his strength. But when the last piece fell, only human flesh remained. Ryder stood tall. His skin bore the faintest traces of the trial of glass. Cuts and scrapes still glistened, faintly red under the soft light. Muscles rippled under his tight undersuit. His eyes, sharp and calm, scanned the room. Unflinching. Lysara leaned forward slightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "So fragile," she said, "and yet you survived." "I did," Ryder replied simply. "Not because of my armor, but because I chose not to fail." The Queen studied him closely, as though seeing him for the first time. There was no arrogance in his stance, no malice, only resolve. She had seen many conquerors, soldiers, and generals in her long life, but none had faced her without a mask, without any protection, without fear. "You speak of choice," she said, her tone curious, "and yet you risk everything. Why?" Ryder's gaze didn't falter. "Because peace is worth more than fear, and courage is worth more than life itself." A murmur spread through the council. Some generals shook their heads, unable to understand how such a fragile creature could command so much strength. The scholars leaned forward, fascinated. Even Lysara's closest advisors were silent, caught in the moment. The Queen's voice cut through the room. "Many claim courage, but few truly bear it. You have shown us more than words." She stood, descending the steps of her throne with grace. Each movement carried authority, yet curiosity lingered in her eyes. Ryder remained standing, calm, unyielding. The two of them human, and Queen locked eyes. Neither spoke for several moments. The tension was thick, like the calm before a storm. "You walk without armor," Lysara said finally, "and yet you face what others could not. What is it that drives you?" "Hope," Ryder replied simply. "Hope for my people, for yours, and for everyone who believes in peace." The Queen's eyes flickered with something she could not name. Respect? Curiosity? Something deeper. It made her pause. Your kind values hope over survival? We value survival to protect what matters, Ryder said. Sometimes hope is all that remains, but it is stronger than any weapon. Lysara stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. And yet you came alone. No fleet. No army. Nothing to shield you from my world or my council. Ryder's expression remained calm. Because armor and armies can be broken, but honor, courage, and truth cannot. The council remained silent. Even the generals, who had questioned his strength moments before, now watched with unease. Ryder Kane did not need weapons or machines to make them question everything they believed about humans. The Queen circled him slowly. Her silver robes swirled like liquid light, and her voice was soft but sharp. I have seen warriors, conquerors, and legends. None of them dared to stand like this before me. You humans stand taller than any of them. Ryder's voice was steady. I stand for more than myself. I stand for everyone who hopes for a future without war. For a moment, Lysara said nothing. Then, almost silently, she asked, Do you trust yourself? I trust what I fight for, Ryder replied. The Queen studied him for several long moments. Then she stepped back, raising her hand toward the council. This human shows us what is rare among your kind, she said. Not strength of weapon, but strength of spirit. His courage is truth itself. Several of the generals frowned, but she silenced them with a glance. You will remain here, not as a guest, but as one who bears the light of your people. Ryder inclined his head slightly. Thank you, the Queen's voice dropped, almost a whisper. And yet I cannot help but wonder, how far does your courage reach? He met her gaze without hesitation. As far as it needs to? That night, Belthara was quiet. The storm had passed, leaving the air sharp and fresh. Ryder walked along the balcony of the palace, feeling the alien wind sweep past him. The city below shimmered in the twin moonlight. The sounds of the night were alive with alien life. Lysara joined him silently. For a moment, they simply looked out at the glowing towers and floating bridges. The city alive with energy and light. You are strange, she said finally. So fragile, and yet unbreakable. You walk without fear, even when surrounded by those who could end you instantly. Ryder looked at her evenly. I am not unbreakable, but I am willing to endure what must be endured. She studied him closely. And yet you do not seek to conquer my people. You do not seek to dominate or destroy. You come as a human, but somehow you are more dangerous than any weapon I have known. Ryder shook his head. Not dangerous, honest. There is a difference. The Queen's eyes softened, though her posture remained regal. Honesty is a weapon few can wield, and yet you wield it effortlessly. Why? Because truth matters more than power, Ryder said simply. Because courage matters more than fear. For several moments they stood in silence. The city glowed below them, and for the first time, the Queen felt uncertainty in her rule. She had faced kings, emperors, and conquerors, but this human, he made her question everything. Finally, she spoke. You have earned my respect, Captain. But respect alone cannot guarantee peace. Tomorrow, the Council will challenge you further. Ryder nodded. I expected as much. She hesitated, then added softly, and yet, I hope you endure. Not for your own sake, but for all of us. Ryder allowed a faint smile. I always endure. It is what humans do. The following morning, Ryder was led to a chamber unlike any he had seen. The walls pulsed with soft blue light, and the floor shimmered like liquid glass. Council members gathered, their forms tall and majestic, radiating authority. The room was designed to intimidate, and it did. But Ryder walked calmly to the center, shoulders squared, eyes steady. Lysara took her seat at the head of the chamber. Captain Ryder Kane, she said, we have watched you survive our tests, endure pain, and stand unbroken before our council. But now we require the ultimate proof, not of strength, not of skill, but of character. He looked around, understanding that this trial was not physical. "I am ready," he said. The Queen's eyes softened, a rare flicker of emotion passing through them. "Very well. You will answer questions of morality, leadership, and loyalty. You will speak truth, even when it could cost you your life. The Council will judge if your humanity is worthy of trust." Ryder nodded. "I speak truth always. That is all I offer." The Council leaned forward, each member taking turns. Questions came, testing his decisions in war, his loyalty to Earth, and his vision for peace. Ryder answered each one with honesty and clarity, his words calm and measured. Never faltering as the trial continued, Lysara watched him closely. For the first time, she felt a strange stir within her. She had faced beings stronger, faster, and older, but none had commanded attention purely by truth and courage. Hours passed. By the end, even the harshest council members were silent. Ryder had answered every question with a mixture of wisdom, honesty, and human resilience. Lysara finally stood. "Captain," she said, her voice clear and commanding, "you have proven what few could. You do not wear armor to hide yourself. You wear it to protect others. And yet your true strength lies not in the shell, but in the spirit beneath it." Ryder bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Queen's gaze softened. "You will not leave this palace until we decide the future. But for now, no. This your courage has changed the way we see humans. And perhaps the way we see ourselves." Ryder allowed a small smile. "Then I will stay, as long as it helps peace." Lysara studied him one last time that day, feeling a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we see if your courage can change the hearts of all Velthera." Ryder looked out over the city, rain falling gently over the towers, sparkling like crystals. Somewhere deep inside, he felt hope not just for humanity, but for this alien world. And perhaps for the first time, the Queen felt it too. The council chamber buzzed softly with anticipation. Every Veltheran in the room watched as Captain Ryder Kane stepped forward, calm and resolute. Today was not a test of strength, skill, or endurance. It was a test of understanding, of influence, and of choice. The council's questions had all been answered. But now the final decision rested with Queen Lysara. She sat atop her throne. The sunlight from the twin suns glinting off her silver hair, her eyes studied Ryder carefully. She had seen him survive the trial of glass, face her council, and answer every question with honesty and courage. Yet there was something more she wanted to understand. "You have proven yourself beyond measure, human," she said. "But you now face your final choice. What will you do? Return to your people and leave Velthara, or remain and work with us to shape a new future?" Ryder looked out at the assembled council, then back to the Queen. His heart was steady, though the weight of the decision pressed on him. He had not come to conquer, nor to bow. He had come to show that humanity's strength lay not in weapons or fleets, but in courage, integrity, and honor. "I came here to prevent another war," he said, "to show that humans can walk with courage even in the face of doubt and fear. My place is with my people. But if Velthara can learn peace as well, I will do everything I can to help." The Queen's lips curved slightly. "And if your people doubt our intentions, if they cannot see reason, they will," Ryder said quietly, "because I will show them. I will prove that courage is stronger than fear, that truth is stronger than deception, and that even worlds apart, we can stand together." Lysara's expression softened. She had heard many promises before. None had carried the weight of truth like his words. She rose from her throne, walking down the polished steps toward him. Her presence was commanding, yet calm. "You speak of courage," she said softly, "and you live it. I expected humans to hide behind machines, shields, and fear. But you stand bare before us, and your spirit cannot be broken." "Why? Because humans survive," Ryder replied simply. "Not because we are stronger than others, but because we endure. Because we fight not for glory, but for what matters. And what matters most is life, honor, and hope." The Queen studied him in silence. For the first time, she saw not a soldier, but a reflection of something greater, something universal. Strength was not in the weapon, but in the will to protect and endure. The humans' reputation as relentless conquerors had faded in the face of this quiet courage. "You came to my world alone," she said finally. "You removed your armor, endured trials, faced my counsel, and still you stood unbroken. What lesson do you bring to Velthera?" "That courage and honor matter more than any shield or weapon," Ryder said. "That life is worth protecting, and that peace is worth fighting, for even if the fight is quiet and unseen." Lysara nodded slowly. "Then perhaps your people are not as strange as I thought. And perhaps we have judged too quickly." The council watched in awe. Generals whispered, advisors nodded, and even the most skeptical of scholars leaned forward, sensing the quiet power of this human's presence. Ryder's actions had done more than survive trials. They had changed perceptions, altered assumptions, and forced a world to reconsider the meaning of strength, Captain Lysara said. Her voice carrying through the chamber, "You will leave this hall as an honored guest. Not as a warrior, not as an envoy, but as a symbol of what humanity can offer: courage, truth, and honor. When you return to Earth, tell them of Velthara's willingness to walk toward peace. Let them see that fear is not the only path." Ryder bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will." The Queen stepped aside, gesturing toward the grand doors. As Ryder passed, she watched him closely. He did not falter, though the weight of this moment was heavy. His eyes met hers for one final moment, and in them she saw not fear, not pride, but understanding. Outside the council chamber, the city of Velthara shimmered under the twin suns. Crystal towers reflected the light, floating bridges gleamed in the distance, and the air was alive with motion. Ryder stepped onto the balcony, taking in the beauty of a world that had once seemed alien and threatening. Now it seemed full of possibility. Sarah followed him quietly, standing at his side. "You have changed more than our council," she said softly. "You have changed me. I did not expect to respect a human, yet here I am." Ryder glanced at her. "Respect is earned," he said simply, "and you have earned mine as well." For a long moment they stood together in silence. The winds of Velthara brushed past them, carrying the scent of crystal flowers and ozone. For the first time in her life, the Queen felt the stirrings of something new: hope. Not hope imposed by power, but hope offered freely, earned through courage. "You will leave soon," she said finally. "And when you do, remember this: the universe watches not only the strong, but the brave. And sometimes the smallest acts of courage ripple farther than any weapon." Ryder nodded. "I will remember, and I will act on it." The journey back to the landing docks was quiet. Guards and attendants gave him space, as if the aura of courage surrounding him demanded respect. The silver dropship waited, engines humming softly, ready to take him home. Lysara accompanied him to the edge of the landing platform. "One last thing, Captain," she said. "You walked through the trial of glass, endured scrutiny, and faced our council. You came alone, without fleet or shield. And yet, you taught us something we could not learn from weapons or words alone." "What did I teach?" Ryder asked, curious. "That courage matters more than power," she said. "That truth is stronger than deception, and that life itself is worth every risk." Ryder smiled faintly. "Then perhaps one day, our worlds will meet not as strangers, but as allies." She nodded, a rare softness in her eyes. "Perhaps. And perhaps, Captain, that day will come sooner because of you." He stepped into the dropship, looking back one last time. The city of Velthara glimmered beneath him, alive and beautiful. And standing at the balcony, Queen Lysara watched him go, feeling something she had never felt before: quiet admiration, a respect born not from fear, but from courage. The engines hummed, lifting the ship gently into the air. As the dropship ascended, the Queen's gaze followed it until it disappeared into the horizon. She whispered to herself, "If all humans are like him, perhaps peace is not impossible." On the journey back to Earth, Ryder reflected on everything he had experienced. The palace, the trials, the council, and the queen. I had tested him in ways that no battle ever could. But the most important lesson had not come from the challenges themselves. It had come from the choices he made. Courage was not simply enduring pain. Courage was standing for what was right even when the path was unclear. Strength was not in weapons, but in the will to protect life and uphold honor and hope. Hope was the quiet, unyielding force that could change even the hearts of a queen. He looked out at the stars, thinking of the messages he would carry back to Earth, the humans who had grown accustomed to fear, conflict, and the idea that only weapons decided outcomes. They would learn that bravery, honor, and truth were sometimes stronger than anything else in the galaxy. Somewhere far away, Valthera watched him leave. The queen had returned to her private chamber, standing silently by the window. She felt a shift inside her, a quiet recognition that perhaps she had underestimated humans. Not all of them, of course, but some just a few possessed the courage to change worlds. And she had met one of them, days later. When Ryder returned to Earth, the Terran vanguard received him with cautious curiosity. No one could understand exactly what had happened on Valthera, only that the human who went alone had returned alive, unscathed, and carrying more than reports or documents. He carried a lesson that courage, honor, and integrity could surpass armies, shields, and fleets. He recounted the events to those who would listen, emphasizing one truth above all: humanity's strength was not just in its technology or numbers, but in its heart. And somewhere far away, Queen Lysara of Valthara would never forget the human who walked bare before her, who faced trials, counsel, and storm alike, can changed her world without striking a single blow. And his rider, Kane, looked out across the blue skies of Earth. He understood something that no war, no battle, no weapon had ever shown him before. True strength comes from courage, and true victory comes from earning respect even in the heart of an alien queen. He turned, ready to lead his people not with fear, but with hope, honor, and the quiet power that comes from the courage to be human. The world would never forget, and neither would he.